I've got to tell you all that I like the president personally. We get along well. But the president isn't leading. He didn't lead on last year's budget, and he clearly is not leading on this year's budget.
In the private sector back in Ohio, Speaker John Boehner built an entire career around being a great salesman. He made quite a bit of money selling plastics. And now that's sort of providing the framework for his greatest sale here on Capitol Hill, perhaps of his legislative career.
So we're going to be prepared to move forward with our troop funding bill that would fund our troops, keep the government open for another week, and cut $12 billion in spending.
Mr. Boehner has to sell a spending package to members of his caucus, particularly freshmen and the more conservative members, on a compromise with Senate Democrats and the White House that will probably be short of the $61 billion in cuts that those members were looking for. Mr. Boehner is deeply aware of the pitfalls of a government shutdown that befell his predecessors, particularly Newt Gingrich in 1995. While some of the freshmen are far younger or have no government experience whatsoever, Mr. Boehner is completely aware how much that hurt the Republican Party and how long that damage lasted. Mr. Boehner had a conversation early Wednesday with President Obama and said that he wanted to avert a shutdown and that he would continue to negotiate. Mr. Obama has made it clear that the $40 billion, which is reported to be the new bar that Mr. Boehner is looking to bring back to his caucus, in discretionary spending is probably not going to happen. Now what he has to do is go back to his members and say, look, you may not get the number that you want. You may not get all the policy riders, such as defunding Planned Parenthood or all abortion providers. But what you have is basically a philosophical victory. You've changed the conversation from how to spend in Washington to how to cut.
At a time when you're struggling to pay your bills and meet your responsibilities, the least we can do is meet our responsibilities to produce a budget.
Amid all the budget fighting this week, the president finds himself in a sort of tricky position. Not only is he trying to negotiate his way out of a government shutdown with the congressional Republicans, he's also now just having to react to the introduction of the House Republicans' budget for the year beyond this one. And it's a long-range plan that is hugely ambitious, even radical in the way it would remake the government. But that's a fight for another day. Now we're still trying to get the spending for the last 6 months of this year and avoid a government shutdown this weekend. White House advisors, for the most part, see opportunity ultimately for the president, but there are pitfalls as well. The House Republicans' demands on the budget are so far to the right that the White House sees an opportunity for President Obama to strike a middle ground ultimately, both in these current negotiations and in the future budget, that will be more appealing to centrist voters, particularly independents. But there's also a pitfall in that the extent to which the president stays on the sidelines of these things, above the fray, it feeds this narrative that Republicans are trying to water, that he's not really leading. And also, the other pitfall is that we see today with the president in Pennsylvania talking about energy, that it sort of trods on his message, talking about clean energy and high gas prices. He can't do that, or there's not so much attention to that when people are thinking about budget and the potential for a shutdown.